It's just coming up to 7 minutes past 10 on Luck on Sunday, and it has been described as one of the worst scandals to hit Irish racing. The doping to lose with what was described as a dangerous level of sedative. The Charles Byrnes trained Viking Horde when ridden by jockey Kevin Browder at Tremor in October 2018. This week, a 6-month ban for Charles Byrnes and a fine was confirmed when he lost his appeal. The horse, not for the first time, was laid on the betting exchanges and the penalty was imposed on Charles Byrnes because the horse was left unattended, during which time the word nobbled was used in the inquiry. The horse was nobbled. There's no evidence to suggest that any members of the Byrnes team was involved. Well, there are so many aspects to this particular story, and I'm really pleased that joining us from the Irish Horseracing Regulatory Board, the IHRB, is Dr. Lynn Hillyer. Hello, good morning, who's the Chief Vet and the Chief Anti-Doper as well. Thank you for joining us on Luck on Sunday this morning. Good morning, Cornelius. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. This story has been going on for some time. To an extent, we've reached a conclusion because the appeal has been dismissed. Though there are still more questions. How do you, at this stage, reflect on the whole thing?
This case was obviously deeply concerning. As the body charged with protecting the integrity of our was important for us. All our cases are important for us. We need to understand them and see them through to their conclusion. Our equine anti-doping programme is doing its job. That's why we're here today. That's why it took 2.5 years to bring this to its full conclusion. We're looking forward now. We have a job of work to do. We have to remember this was 2.5 years ago. An awful lot has been achieved in that time. We're now going forwards with more work this year.
Well, after the media conference, after the appeal was dismissed, I think it was your colleague Dennis Egan who said, everyone can be clear, Irish racing is clean. But can you really say that so emphatically when this has grabbed so many headlines? And indeed, only a month or two ago, Jim Bolger, as respected a figure in Irish racing, saying that doping was a #1 issue.
Yeah, the first thing to say is yes, we can stand over what we're doing in our equine anti-doping programme. It's doing its job in terms of quality, quantity, the amount of testing we do. Just to give an idea of scale, we would be taking about 10% of our runners are sampled. About 5% of those would be non-routine, so they wouldn't be winners. They'd be, as the case in Viking Horde, and we're moving towards 4,000 this year. So the quantity is there. The quality is also there. It'll be well known that we moved to a world-class laboratory in 2018. They're one of only 5, and our percentage of out-of-competition testing is also increasing. We were something like 7% in 2016. We're now up at near 25%. So all of this tells us, all the samples, all of that work, day in, day out, gives us the confidence to say that, yes, we are happy that we have Irish racing is clean. But we can't stand still, of course not. No regulator can. We need to go forwards. We've got some developments this year, which you'll be aware of, where we will be increasing our activity in unlicensed premises, for example. All of this is critical for us to be able to stand over that comment going forwards.
So just tell us where we are with the unscheduled visit. Am I right in saying that training is taking place so that these unscheduled visits can be more extensive? Is that correct?
Exactly. So
but that's been sort of held up by the pandemic.
It's been a long time coming on the one hand. On the other hand, when you have a group, if you go back to where this came from, it came back from the Anti-Doping Task Force, which was convened here in 2016 to critically review the situation with equine anti-doping. There were some 25 recommendations or actions. 22 of those are either achieved or ongoing, and this was one of them. So yeah, go back to the question. The team are being trained up on Tuesday. They're an experienced team. It's my veterinary officers, veterinary assistants, but also those from other areas of the organisation to bring in different skill sets. So we're looking at being active, going out on the ground by the middle of the year.
And in terms of the wider equine community, have you not been asked by some people that you should really give a warning, because it's not just about horse racing, it's about so many different aspects of the equine world?
Yeah, we will be testing and visiting premises that belong to unlicensed unlicensed people, so pinhookers, breeders, and it's that life before the thoroughbreds come under our care, if you like, the whole picture. So it's been very important that people understand what's coming here, and that's taken a little bit of time to work through. At the end of the day, a horse in a training yard is generally more accessible than a yearling turned out or coming in and or even going back, to a younger animal. So we understand that. The unannounced part as regulators was critical. It was really important right from the word go. But going forwards, we'll be able to access, inspect, ensure the welfare and the anti-doping status, if you like, of any thoroughbred in Ireland at any time.
And hair testing, just update us on that. That's something that you've been, because you were in the UK before, weren't you, working for the authorities here? Hair testing has been something that has been right in the high on your agenda throughout.
We started working on hair. I started working with LGC, as you say, when I was working for the BHA some 10 years ago. And that's why LGC are one of the world leaders in hair testing, anabolic chemistry that goes hand in hand with that. It's now being applied across the world. I suppose where we're different here is that we started doing it on the race course in the summer. And we take samples entirely, hair and blood, in our Irish competition testing. So we've used it, I suppose, in two ways. One, to prove that substance is there. Two, to prove when it was there, when the horse was exposed to the substance. And you'll be aware, no doubt, hair gives a longer window of that exposure. By using hair with our blood and urine, by taking enough samples at the right time, we can make sure that we have the coverage we need to be able to stand over that statement that our equine anti-doping program is doing its job.
So we've talked hair testing, we've talked unannounced visits. You were, when you moved to Ireland, you gave an interview to the Irish Field and you said you said putting in quick fixes was never the intention. People may now, 5 years later, saying, well, the quick fixes might not have been the intention, but should you have been quicker about all this? Cameras are only just coming into racecourses. The move to the other laboratory was only a couple of years ago. So have you dragged your feet?
I think quick fixes rarely work, and they rarely actually stand the test of time or indeed regulatory scrutiny. So all of these cases that we've brought through have been properly processed. The investigations have all been carried out in the appropriate way. You have to make sure that the processes are consistent from case to case. That's critical, obviously, as a regulator. So the percentage of our competition was around 7%. It's now 18% 2019. It'll be 25% this year. Making sure that all of that's done properly with trained personnel, stakeholders understanding what's needed. So, to give an example, 2018, you may be aware we had 27 positives in 2018. Of those, I'd say around half gave us cause for concern. Moving to 2020, we had 10 positives last year, or post-race findings, and all of those were issues where medications hadn't been withdrawn in time, or there was a case of cross-contamination exposure from a human drug. So what I'm saying is in that time, there's been a significant transition, both in the level of testing, the type of testing, and if you like, the response from the industry. What we're seeing is very different now. It's a much less concerning situation than it was.
So things are moving on, but just as far as this particular case, the Viking Horde case, is concerned, the fact is that we don't know who did it. We don't know, I don't think, who benefited from it. So we haven't really, going back to the original point, we haven't really drawn a line under this story at all, have we? Because, theoretically, I know you've described it as a one-off, but it could happen again.
No, at the end of the day, the stewards did their job on the day. They knew something was wrong with that horse. The minute an effort was asked for, it was blatantly clear to them as professionals that something was wrong. They asked the sample to be taken, and that's led us to where we are now. Now, whilst I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, I think the deterrent effect of the level of our testing now would ensure that we would have coverage if it were ever to be attempted again.
We're having just one or two problems with your line, Lynn. Hopefully someone will say in my ear whether you have frozen permanently. Oh, you're back. You're back. Just while the technology allows us, two quick questions. So is the investigation to try and find who gave this astonishing amount of the ACP metabolite to Viking Horde, is that an ongoing investigation? Are you any nearer finding out who actually, in the UK we talked about the needle man many years ago. Do we know whether we're getting on with that investigation?
The trainer is responsible, Cornelius. So the trainer takes responsibility and has been held to account for this. So as far as the investigation is concerned, we've drawn a line under it.
Yeah, but he's only been held responsible for leaving the horse unattended. He's only been held responsible for leaving the horse unattended. Say that again?
We know from the science that the drug was administered. We know from the science that the drug was administered at any time up to 5 hours before the race. The trainer was responsible for that animal the whole time before the race.
But you've also acknowledged, I think, that there's no evidence to suggest he or any of his team did it. So presumably the hunt continues for whoever did.
We'll continue to work up any intelligence that we receive in conjunction with the BHA and other authorities. But in terms of this particular case, the trainer was responsible for those 5 hours before the race. And I think that is the critical point. We reached that point. The IHRB has done its job in that respect. We won't stand still. We're going forwards this year with the testing I've outlined, and we need to ensure that we do, because we have to guarantee what we've said, that we can stand over the integrity of Irish racing.
Final thought, nothing specifically to do with Viking Horde, but a major American owner group, Team Valor, has moved horses to Europe from America because they don't like the prevalence of what are described as designer drugs, undetectable drugs in the US. And they've also said that the horses will be going to stables that they feel they can trust in Europe. Are there designer drugs, undetectable drugs flying around the place that you're looking for we don't know about?
As long as you have competitive sport, there will be those who try to make an effort to cheat. Designer drugs are part of that. We've been with colleagues overseas, we've been at the forefront of trying to make sure we keep on top of the detection of those drugs. And I can think of a few examples in recent years where we have been ahead of that curve. We just need to keep ahead of it. And the investment that racing makes in our anti-doping activity across the board, actually, not just in Ireland, is critical to that.
Well, Dr. Lynn Hillyer, who is Chief Veterinary Officer, Head of Anti-Doping for the Irish Horseracing Regulatory Board, the IHRB, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Have a good day.
Thank you, Cornelius.